Welcome to the kitchen. I'm Chef Victoria Love, and today we're going to make an apple brown Betty. This was a dessert that was very popular during the Great Depression because it used up leftovers. You would have day-old bread, and it would almost be like a bread pudding, but with apples. There's like apple pie without the crust and bread instead. And my grandfather used to make this all the time when I was growing up. My grandfather had a farm in upstate New York that had a beautiful orchard, and so there was always tons of apples left over, and this is a wonderful dessert. We have Gala apples today, and these are good for baking. If you have Granny Smith, Golden Delicious, those two are good for baking. I don't recommend Macintosh. Macintosh apples are best for making applesauce. So let me get all of these peeled and I will show you how to make it. I started slicing my apples yesterday and then the bell rang. I had to get going, so I gotta finish doing that. But what I would like to do first is get my bread in the oven. So we're gonna need about 6 cups of bread cubes. And what I like to do is actually spread the butter onto the bread first. And I put this stick of butter into the microwave for about 20 seconds so it's nice and soft. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spread the butter on the bread and then cube it. Now, some recipes, they recommend just melting butter and tossing it with your bread crumbs that you have or your croutons that you've made. I prefer doing it this way. This is an extra step, but when I was in England, one of my first bread and butter puddings, which was phenomenal, this was the method of doing it. You actually sit there and spread the butter on each slice, and the result is that the butter is really absorbed into the bread and tastes absolutely delicious. And you get this nice golden brown color on each slice. So I'm gonna do a whole bunch of these slices and then I'm gonna cut it into cubes. All right, I have 3 slices, so just stack them up and then we're gonna slice it. And I'm gonna be doing a variety of sizes because I want some large crouton cubes and some smaller ones. So we're just gonna cut these strips. All right, then rotate and then cut this way crosswise. And we got a whole bunch of nice cubes. One of these days I'm gonna have a camera person or get some sort of apparatus to hold the camera for me so you can see better what I'm doing. There we go. I have a small little bit of butter left, and I'm just gonna use this in the baking dish and get it greased up. Here's a tip for you from my best friend's mom. When I was little, she told me she always saved the butter wrapper, put it in the freezer, and then she would have that ready for any time she needed to butter the baking dish or the cookie tray, and it would have just enough butter left on it to be used. And that was money-saving tip that I've used ever since she told me when I was, I think, 13 years old. So that's one way to save money. Use your butter wrappers to grease your baking dishes. I'm gonna use 10 slices of bread, and I'm gonna get this one into the oven while I'm working on the rest of the slices. And we're gonna put it in at 300 degrees until it's nice and golden brown. So let's get that going. Here we are right out of the oven, a nice light golden brown, and they've crisped up. They're not super dried out. We want them a little bit tender, but they look beautiful. Here are 4 pounds of sliced apples. Now save the peels and the cores because you can make vinegar with it, and I have a YouTube video on how to do that, so check that one out. And now what I'm gonna do is get my flavorings ready. I'm gonna use the zest only of the lemon. I don't like that extra overly lemony flavor, so I'm just gonna zest 1 lemon, and then we're gonna get our granulated sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, allspice measured out, and we're gonna toss this all together. Here is my 1/2 cup of sugar and 3/4 cup of light brown sugar. To that, we're going to add 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ground allspice, and the zest of 1 lemon. We're just gonna stir this together, make sure it's completely combined and mixed in. I like to do what I call smushing. I like to smush it together because I want to break up all of those clumps of lemon zest in there. I don't like biting into my dessert and finding a giant clump of lemon zest. I really want to break it up. So I recommend using your hands. You can also break up the lumps of brown sugar. So have a little fun here. I find it therapeutic breaking up lumps of brown sugar. And now that it's all combined, we're gonna sprinkle it over. And I am the type of kid who loved to make mud pies when I was little. I like to use my hands when I'm making food. There we go. Of course, they're very cleanly washed. And then you're gonna toss these together. Once you get all that sugar in there, I like to let it rest for 10 minutes before I assemble and bake it. The reason is because that sugar starts to draw out the juices from the apple slices, and it gives a really moist, tender end result in our apple brown Betty. So set the timer for 10 minutes, come back and let's assemble. 10 minutes has gone by and now we're gonna start assembling it. So I have a layer of our bread croutons at the bottom and a layer that's for the top. We're gonna put down our apples. This is a lasagna sized baking dish and I greased it. So let's get these all in there and then we're gonna bake it in a 300-degree oven, probably like 45 minutes. And we'll keep an eye on it. There we go. Let's get this all in. All right, we have a little mountain of apples here. Don't worry about it being so high because it will bake down. And now we're just gonna spread the croutons on top. And again, you could crumble these up. These could be bread bites. And if you wanted to, you could even use artisanal bread, jazz it up, a brioche. Jack Pepin has a video of making this recipe and even uses leftover Chinese fortune cookies, which is really quite funny. But that's the whole idea. This is supposed to be a dessert using up your leftovers. So if you have leftover whole wheat, by all means use it. Whatever you prefer. I simply prefer the old white bread because that's how my grandfather made it. So there we go. We get that spread out and into a 300-degree oven. And let's see how it looks. Oh my goodness, look how gorgeous that is. This really nice, beautiful golden brown color. It smells absolutely wonderful. See how much steam's coming off of that? The apple slices were covered with cinnamon and sugar. I can't wait to try this. Here's a tip. This is in the oven for an hour, maybe even an hour and 10 minutes. If your crumbs are getting too dark on the top, take a piece of tin foil, loosely cover it, and that'll prevent the crumbs from burning. And when you take it out, voila. So if you do notice it's getting too dark, put tin foil over the top. Here we go. This is so good. I can't wait to try it. Now this would be phenomenal with some vanilla ice cream on top or some whipped cream. And here we go. There you can see the juices at the bottom. We want to get some of those juices, and those apples at the bottom are really cooked. Let's get that in there. And I'm going to take a bite and let you know how it is. That was absolutely delicious. The cinnamon is perfectly balanced with the allspice, and a hint of the lemon zest on it is wonderful. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Please come back and check out more. I do about one a week, and I have over 485 videos on my YouTube channel, so please check them all out. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining me in the kitchen. Leave me a comment and let me know how you like the recipe. For more recipe demonstrations, please click like and subscribe to Chef Victoria Loves YouTube channel and have fun in the kitchen. Thank you.